All right. Welcome. Oh, we got more people coming in. This is the Edgewalker Cafe on February 19th, 2026. So glad to have you all here. It's so good to see your faces. And today's um, presentation, workshop really, it's going to be very interactive, is on the sacred art of selling and marketing for consultants and coaches. And Samantha Johnstone is going to be our presenter. There she is. And Samantha has been with Edgewalkers for the past year and is very central to who we are and what we're doing in the world right now. And so, Samantha, I'm so grateful the universe brought you to us and grateful that you're a part of this today.
Oh, I'm so grateful
Sam,
to
we
be
call
here.
her affectionately Sam, and Sam is a global citizen and an edge walker in every sense of the word. She has a corporate background in marketing and sales and a background in spirituality and faith that she integrates and has done that in her own life, which she'll share with you, and is now looking at how to help others do that in their lives and work. So, welcome, Sam. So glad to have you with us today.
Happy to be here. Hi, everybody. So I'll jump in, Judy.
Yes, please do.
Let me share my screen. Thank you for that warm introduction. I am happy to see everybody today. I do want to attempt to make this as as interactive as possible. Just bringing up my screen. However, I might not be able to completely see the chat or might not recognize you. So, Judy, if you don't mind, if somebody mentions something in the chat or somebody raises their hand, just interrupt me. But please, if there's anything that triggers a thought, a question, a contemplation, let's have that conversation.
Yes,
So
and
first,
I'll let you know.
thank you. Thank you so much, Judy. So first, as we get into this, I just want to ground us in a question. How many of us have a spiritual practice? And how many of us are bringing those same principles into how we grow our business, right? So I'm going to ask some questions, not for you to answer, but for you to think about. When's the last time you prayed for a client before a sales conversation, before a meeting? When's the last time you followed a download, not necessarily a business strategy, but a download, an inclination to reach out to somebody or to do something that might not have made perfect sense from a business world, but came from your spirit? When's the last time you said no to a client or opportunity or money because it wasn't completely aligned with your purpose or your mission? When's the last time you held your price in silence instead of rushing to explain it or discount it? So if any of those gave you pause, that's really where the gap is, and that's what we're here to talk about today. There's a disconnect between our spiritual practice and our business practice, and we don't always see them as one. So we'll talk about that practice. We know our spiritual practices, meditation, prayers, and more. And then we know how we're taught to sell, push harder, create urgency, close at all costs. But before I get into talking about all of those things, I really want to talk about the systems that we have internally, right? So before we talk about the strategies and systems, we really need to check our energetic field. Sales and marketing is really an energy game. So because if your energy is off, we know everything downstream will be off with that. Your words won't land, the right offers won't close. Something will feel off to the person on the other end, right? But they won't really know exactly what it is, but they'll feel it. So that's why I say we have to really focus on our inner operating system before we even get into the spiritual tactics, because when all three are aligned and your energy's right, sales becomes more natural and becomes a service and becomes sacred. So your mind is really your software, your beliefs, your conditionings, how you frame and handle objections and perceive rejection. Your body's your hardware, your nervous system, your energy, your physical capacity. I see sales and marketing is more about presence than anything else. And so, really, what presence are you bringing to the conversation? And your spirit, your inner authority, your purpose, your alignment, your power source. This is really where you're going to define your connection and purpose, your inner authority, and what your alignment, your calling is. So at the end of the day, we are talking about business, and strategy and systems are very important. But the one thing that guides them is our spirituality. So we just talked about what that inner power source is, and that's going to inform your strategy. It's going to inform who you're going to pursue. It's going to inform how you price, when to push, when you wait, and then that will be executed through your systems, right? So you only are as strong as your systems. But first, we need to really connect to our source. So before we get into more tactics and principles, I do like to make this specific uh, distinction between sales and marketing. They're both energy. They're both energy exchanges, but they have slightly different purposes. Sales is more of a one-to-one, right? A direct energy exchange, direct outreach conversations, phone calls, DMs, asking for the business. And marketing is more of a one-to-many, broadcast energy, content creation, brand positioning, social media, blogs, speaking, attracting the business. Now we know both of these are important, and especially nowadays, I think with social media and the way things are moving in the world, we know that we need to use both of them, but we also aren't always feeling very confident in them both, right? So for me personally, I love sales. I know my energy depletes when I need to. If I wake up in the morning and I know I'm supposed to write a social media post, I am not, I am not excited about that at all. Whereas others get really feel that energy. But for me, if I'm going to have a direct conversation with somebody, if I'm going to be able to connect one on one, that's where I personally thrive. So yes, marketing is important, but in my process, I lean more towards the sales and the one on one connections. It might be opposite for you. And then sometimes you need to outsource the energy. I think nowadays everybody's trying to become sales and marketing experts when that's a whole career, those are whole career lines. And so we do need to take the time to really learn the foundation principles of these. But I'm going to offer a new paradigm for this group on how we're really going to put out that messaging. So I'm going to pause there, and I would love to hear from you guys. You could put it in the chat, but where does your energy, or at least just think about it, where does your energy deplete the most? If you think about your entire business week and everything you have to do, specifically when it comes to your developing business and growing business, where do you feel it's draining? Do you feel it draining, like I just said, if I wake up in the morning, I need a social media post? Is it when you're working with a client that's not completely aligned, but you're focusing on uh, generating income as that's very necessary. So I'm going to take a second there and check out the comments. Anybody? Absolutely. When a client brings no energy, deal with money, accounting, invoices, taxes. I think we all could agree there, Judy. Writing, posting, write materials. I love to be with people. I'm the same way, Peggy, same exact way. When I get stressed out about back end admin tasks, incompetence, hypocrisy. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, an exercise I would implore everybody to do, not at this moment, organizing my path forward on solutions. I think, and this is why it's important also to work with people, right? So I know I'm speaking with folks, everybody here is consultant or coach or advisor in some kind of capacity, and we end up having we become a one person show, so we're doing any and everything on top of delivering for our clients, and that's when we and so we have to realize, I forgot what the law is called, but 20% of our efforts really generates 80% of our results. That's usually 20% of your clients usually generate 80% of your income. So that's usually a universal ratio for everything. So really, we're going to figure out where we're going to put where's our area of influence and genius, and put that 20% of energy into the marketing or sales portions that feel aligned to you. One thing I do love to say is your marketing can be as sacred as your mission, and your sales practice can be as sacred as your spiritual practice. I think a lot of times we when we think of business, we sometimes have this angst about what we're going to ask for because there are real implications, right, to making sure that your business grows, whether it's financial or impact. But no, our work is our sacred practice. So here I'm talking about a paradigm shift. We all know that we've all been trained in the hard, what I call hard sales aspects. We know that when you're leading with message and highlighting problems, forcing timing, trying to force a reaction, controlling through pressure, measuring income only. And those are all proven tactics in marketing and how you communicate. But if you really take it from a spiritual lens, we want to shift some of those mindsets, right? So let's not highlight the problems. Let's speak to their dreams instead of their fear. Let's honor natural rhythms. We'll talk about that in a second. And creating sacred connections, one-on-one connections with people, and allowing organic growth instead of pressuring folks to close before they might feel ready. And let's measure our impact as well as our income. Sometimes a deal might be a little less money, but it makes a lot more impact, and vice versa. So these are the three principles that I really say are the foundation for aligned selling, the right timing, reciprocity, and prosperity consciousness. So am I acting from alignment or anxiety? Am I forcing or flowing? Am I giving or taking? Do I recognize that what I put out returns and maybe not always from the same source? And am I operating from enough or not enough? Is this faith or fear? So let's get into each one of these. Right timing. Spiritual foundation. It's the natural order and rhythm of things. Are you forcing urgency? People can feel this energy when you have these conversations. So your follow-up flow should match the decision cycle, not your anxiety, not your bank accounts, how you're connecting with folks when you should reach out to folks. I think we've all probably had this moment. You might be going for a walk or in bed and then have this inclination, oh, I should reach out to that person. I can't tell you how many times I've randomly had a thought to reach out to somebody that may not have been on my target list or even make sense. And then just that conversation opened up something either for my business or life, either in the moment or in the near future. So divine timing is very important when we think about our marketing and our sales. Knowing what's going on, I think really right now with everybody having access to all the world news. I know one time when I was in my corporate sales job, I disconnected from the news and I started drafting emails to reach out to clients and follow up. And it was January 6th when the insurrection happened, right? So with me not being aware about what was happening, it was not the right time to follow up people. Hey, Happy New Year, what's going on? And I found that out really quickly through some group chats. So I think we when we're thinking about business and thinking about sales and thinking about marketing, we really need to be mindful of what the marketplace has as well. Reciprocity. Giving and receiving. So if we're not giving to get, right? That's manipulation dressed in spiritual language, I like to say. We just know that wherever we put the energy will flow. So I want to say Judy just had this experience. We've been working really hard in the background on the next phase of Edgewalkers. And as we've been working and we've been strategizing, Judy's been getting calls for people who have been interested in what we're doing, who have no idea that we're in the midst of unfolding this. So it might bring in some investment, it might bring in partnerships, but just because we started putting that energy, we've been spending so much energy in we put that into the world and it comes back in a different way. And prosperity consciousness really should be the first principle because what's your mindset? Where are you focused? And are you in a scarcity mindset? Are you focusing on what is going on in the marketplace? There are some real implications happening right now in the world, but is that then influencing a lack mindset instead of an abundance mindset? This is also when I really like to talk about our target market. a lot of times we're casting a too wide a net because it's really undercover lack mindset, right? You think that you need to reach as many people as possible to start closing deals, but you really should, in your marketing messaging, you really should be speaking to one person, have one person in mind. If we're casting too wide of a net, that's when, especially if our energy's already depleted, right? We're not working with a lot of teams. McDonald's advertises to every single demographic out there, but they have the staff and the money to do so. Did I did I freeze? Okay, I think I'm back. Sorry, we're having a little bit of storm here in LA, and it's been messing up my internet. Um, Lost my train of thought. But yeah, so we need our we need to really be mindful, oh yes, of our target market. So speak to one person. Craft your messaging for one person. That will attract the right clients. That will help not segment out your focus. And just because you're talking to one person doesn't mean other people can't see it, right? Like I know a lot of my client base is entertainment, sales, media marketing folks. But that doesn't mean my messaging won't also resonate with those who work in pharmaceutical sales or other aspects. But I can't craft my messaging with the thought of all the possible people that will segment the energy and the signal that you're putting out into the world. So signal out to your ideal client. That is something that you should really be thinking about. Who, if I had all the money in the world, if I did not need to worry about anything, who do I want to make the biggest impact on, and how do I connect with them? So, with all that being said, this is really when you culminate it into a real system, your mission, who you are, that's your being, is going to define your message, how you share, who you're sharing it with, who you're sharing it with. How do you sell it? Once you define who you're really talking to, you know where they live, right? So maybe your audience is not a TikTok audience, your audience is a LinkedIn audience. Or maybe you need to, or maybe they're live in conferences. So how you sell and how you market will be defined by your message and your message. And the magic is you. I think the word authenticity sometimes gets overused, but this is going to be how you connect. I know I spent a lot of times in my corporate career trying to emulate what I thought a corporate professional looked like, sounded like, worked like, and it really unlocked, especially in my sales career, when I was really walked in the room as my 100% self, flaws and all. And then obviously with all of that, we're all here to get the money, the energy exchange. At the end of the day, money is energy, currency. And so and we should absolutely, our efforts should result in money, but we need to check the energy that we're creating in order to create that money. So I'm pretty much kind of wrapping up here. I realize I'm going through this fast. So when spirit meets strategy, what we're really trying to do is deepen your relationships organically, right? So you're connecting authentically, whether you're going from a marketing standpoint and sending out a signal to many, or you're having a one-on-one conversation. It's really about developing authentic connections. And then that develops through right timing, the perfect timing, aligned action, and then this is your sacred service. And I think if there's nothing else I say today or you take away, I think we really just need to remember that the same divine energy that gave us the inspiration for our purpose, for our job, for our mission is the same divine energy that will be helping you craft your messaging, helping you with your strategy, and helping you with your systems. So we have to hold that truth within ourselves. And then when we market from service, it becomes an extension of our spiritual practice organically. And we are not here to convince anybody of anything. There is a reason why it was put on your spirit for your service, and and when you're visible, those who are ready to find you will. And again, your market can be as sacred as your mission. So when I would be remiss, and this is what I am doing right now currently. This is a season of renewal. We're in a cleansing period right now in so many different ways. It's Lent, it's Ramadan, spring equinox, Lunar New Year. I think it just was a new moon or a new moon sometime this week. So we really need to figure out what's the next steps for our business. Some people like to go hit the ground running in January. I always say spring is the time to start the cleansing and start the renewal. So The ancient world knew that you can't plant in overgrown soil. So I have been just for myself building clear plant intend. Like, what am I preparing? What am I releasing in this phase right now as think about my business? Because in full transparency, I haven't always practiced what I preach. I left my corporate career about 2 years ago, and I recognized developing business on yourself for yourself is a different process. But I did realize very quickly that those same spiritual practices I was using to sell in corporate, I needed to apply them to my consulting career as well. And you feel the pressure, right? So I spent the past year really learning, embracing, connecting with just a few clients. And then when you start feeling the pressure, whether it's financial or whether or you're feeling like incomplete, you start operating from a different energy. So I'm clearing that energy as well. I am clearing my space physically as well, closets, files to make room for the new. And then planting, defining what that aligned position is, crafting your outreach, really building what your sacred sales system is. Again, when you think about going through what brings you joy, what brings you energy, and build your system from that. And then tending. We have to nurture our clients, we have to nurture our audience, and how do you execute from that alignment? So having the conversations, and we need to track, we probably have something called CRM, customer relationship management system. But let's track our manifestations, track your synchronicities. We know the gratefulness process practice, right? So there's power in tracking that what you're grateful for and blessings that happen, but track synchronicities in your business too and manifestations in your business and watch how much this shift changes within the matter of weeks. So I had a slide for this, but that's the one thing that I'm imploring everybody to do in this moment, whether you have your own actual religious or spiritual practice in this time for these next 40 days, or if you're or just in general as you're thinking about the next season of your services. What's the one thing in your business that's draining your energy? Is it a client? Is it an offer that you feel like you need to put out there because it sounds sexy? Or is it a practice? And make a plan to release it. So your spiritual practice is not separate from your sales practice, it's the foundation of it. So I say work begins within. And we're going to continue this work. I mentioned that there's a new phase of Edgewalkers that is coming out with the Edgewalker Academy, the sacred arts of sales and marketing for coaches and consultants. I will have on the academy starting next month. I also have a newsletter for my business inner office. Where we'll provide frameworks, essays, resources on where spirituality and strategy. So actual, real practical applications for your business. So please, I will drop the link in the chat so you can sign up for that newsletter. I also am going to do a weekly email for my 40 days of how I plan on clearing and tending to my business and hoping to bring everybody along with me and see and can't wait to hear about your results. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I wanted to allow time for conversation, Q&A. I want to hear about what the biggest hurdles you have in developing business is right now. So we can have a practical conversation. I think there's real concerns right now with the marketplace and some folks are impacted by DEI changes that's happened. So we can have that conversation. I'll stop sharing so then my face will come up. Hi.
And Robin has a situation that she or he, I'm not sure, that and Pedro's raised his hand. So, Robin, do you want to share? This is, I think, one of the things that depletes your energy in your business. And then Pedro. Well, I'll read Robin's.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, there you go. Okay, good.
I've been off screen and off video and audio because I'm in transit, so I thought I would respond to your question. Yeah, I have been working with Lance Secretan for a very long time. So he says hello. Thank you for the invitation to be part of this. And yeah, I've really been evolving I'm going to say more, Samantha, more than my offer is what is my gift. And
Mhm.
the offer that I have is I really want to help others shine and really step into their brilliance. And some of that is with the council principles. It's always been a thread of leadership development and empowering those that don't feel seen or safe in the workplace to
Mhm.
a place where they can build more confidence and presence and agency, and that they can actually then be, as Lance calls me, he said, "You're a missionary." So they can go out and carry the word about their own business and help their
Mhm.
business grow. So
Mhm.
I'm I'm I have been realizing lately that I am experiencing some FOMO, and I don't know if anybody else on the call is experiencing that, but I feel like LinkedIn is very loud right now. There's a lot of noise, and it doesn't feel like it's the right place for me, although I have, 3,500 contacts that I've developed over the course of my career. Many of them don't align with what I want to do
Mhm.
here and what I'm called to do, but I know that there is a segment of the audience that is, and I want to be authentic, and I really want to be engaging and thoughtful. And so crafting that has just, I'm stuck there right now because there's all of the people doing this, and maybe there's a little bit of fear, frankly, a little bit of
Mhm.
putting it out there because some people feel like it's woo woo. And then I'm realizing they're not my people anyway. So
Absolutely.
that makes sense.
Um, I don't think there was a question in that, but I do want to say what comes up for me with that. I mean, I feel very similar, right? When I said I need to be transparent and practice what I preached, I also, if anybody follows me on LinkedIn, I'm pretty inactive as far as my own posting of content. But I do, and there is seem to be a lot of noise out there. But you know what? That's been media for as long as media has been out there, and your audience will find you. Speaking to the fact that you don't feel like LinkedIn may be your place, really sit with that energy, right? Because it might not be. Just because that works for a lot of other folks, it might not be what works for you. Um, and energetically, if you just start putting out the information, somebody's going to it's going to resonate with you. Every time I end up posting something, and it might not get much public reactions as far as likes or comments, but I definitely get the text messages or the DMs saying, "Hey Sam, that really resonated with me," or "Would love to learn more about this," and then that just helps build your momentum and your energy. Um, but really focus, it's really hard to, when you see what everybody else is doing and what seems to be perceived successful. uh we In this day and age, it's hard not to focus on it, but we have to focus on where our energy goes.
Right. Thank you.
Of course. Pedro, I think you have your hand up, I think.
Just a second. There we go. Well, first things first. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Samantha.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely presentation. I really
Wonderful.
enjoyed myself, and pretty much like a mirror, I would say. However, there is something that we should bear in mind. I'm positive that you remember this William Shakespeare quote, "The world is a permanent stage, and men and women are merely players." End of quote. So, in that regard, um, it happens all the time. It happens all the time when you are visiting a customer, and regardless, you are with your best intention, with with your profound belief that this is the way to go. On the other side, we find people that can't be they are clueless about what is this spiritual practices, what is that. So they are so money related, and Depending on countries, sometimes they are looking after some sort of retribution with, sorts of corruption or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I work with stuff that is very, it acts like an infrastructure actually, in hospital environment. And it's extremely difficult. Today, I I am preparing something, and I realized that I was doing my roadmap for this. What have we done, and what we have to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe, but I've been on this in the last 20 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
20 years, and it's like preaching in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And you are seen like an alien. It's so difficult. It is really difficult. So I would say that this is the biggest issue that I have to face. And then
Mm-hmm.
we have to face another very, uh, which is a daily challenge, which is people don't give a damn about what you're doing. They give importance of what they can get out of it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And well, it's been a bumpy road. That's what I had to say. There's no question.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just something that drives me nuts. But anyway,
well, thank you. Thank you for that transparency. I think everybody, I know myself, I definitely understand that and feel that. In fact, when I originally have been working on these frameworks and working on this, it was for folks navigating crazy toxic corporate pressure. So that's where I was spending most of my career, and I realized that I really needed to have some kind of my own center in practice and try to and what could I control, right? And so that's when I started really trying to send out the energy before I went into a meeting. And when I really first started, I was a fairly young sales executive, and so I had to go into my spiritual practices just to have confidence to walk into the rooms of Sony Studios and and present. So I think when I'm talking about these spiritual practices, not just for the aspect to gain, but it's for us to also feel how do we manage and navigate in these tough times. I know we're going into a cycle, an economic cycle that might make things a little tough, but then it's like, what can we control and believe in that energy is going to come back to us. But I absolutely agree with you. It's hard. And to your point about what folks don't care about what you do, they want to know what value they get from it. And I think that's why in our messaging we really lead from a service standpoint. What is it that you're serving? What is the value proposition that you're giving them? Not just what you just want to communicate, but what you want to communicate and why does that matter? And I think that's also why it's really important to know exactly who you're speaking with and who that target market is, because then you can really identify their dreams, not just their pain points, and speak to
yeah,
that.
I agree with you, and I appreciate your remarks. Truth to be told is that usually these guys that have the power of decision, they are totally unaware that spiritual actually exists. And it's funny, for instance, if you look into the government of your country, when they say that God is above everything,
Mm-hmm.
and their practice is totally opposite to God
Mm-hmm.
will. So it's so difficult. It is
Absolutely.
really difficult.
And
But I appreciate that, and thank you, and thank you for listening to me. That's
of
it.
course, of course. Any other thoughts to share or questions or anything I can answer? I do want to say just one last point, which you just mentioned, Pedro. You're right. A lot of times you're speaking with folks who might not be aware of the spirituality part, or they might not want to, or feel that connection when you're speaking about business. But I say when I'm talking to my corporate clients, it's not something you announce in the boardroom, right? You don't walk in like, "Hey, I just prayed for everybody." You're setting that energy for yourself, right? So it might not be something you ever communicate out loud to anybody, but this is for your internal practices.
And I agree with you, and I have to say that by my own experience, if I didn't do it, I would I would be, you know, dead already.
For sure, for sure. And that's the
Thank you.
aspect I think that's why we want to have this conversation because I think it's the one thing that we don't always get to talk about with everybody. So that's why we want to create this space for us. Lewis?
Yeah, I love all the principles you share. It's how I've lived my life. And so this is one place I feel free to share two things. One, the most amazing work, the most positive work I did in 2 years of business school was my best paper ever on the aspects of marketing, not the parts you're talking about, the parts of marketing that are totally unethical and manipulative and
Mm-hmm.
dishonest. I wrote a whole paper on that and how much I hate them. And this was in a marketing class, so of course I was given a D.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like hearing me. However, I have lived the way you're suggesting, and in all my 40 years, especially the 20 where I ran my own company, every single client, all I talked about was what they would get out of it, how it would work for them, and listen to their answers and let them absolutely become involved in creating the products. The diversity training I created was all good because I listened to what they wanted it to be. And what a difference to know that
Mm-hmm.
every relationship was mutually satisfying. And if it wasn't, I wasn't even interested in having them. There's nothing I wanted to sell and push on anybody. Ugh. So thank you for preaching.
Oh,
Lewis,
I appreciate that.
excuse me, I would love, Lewis, for you to also share that you created, besides the diversity work that you did, and I was in corporate when you were doing that, your company was famous. It was the number one company for diversity training in the United States. It was very profound, the work you did. Then you started doing work on spirituality in the workplace with videos and training sessions and so on.
Right.
And I know that Sam is very interested in moving into that space. And I wonder if you would share a little bit about what you did and what you learned in that space, and maybe again in the sales and marketing arena. What lessons do you take away that might be useful for any of us doing that work now? First of all, let's
What a,
talk to you first. That would be one lesson.
oh, what a great question. Thank you, Judy. And takes one to see one. So I remember just as well all the work you were doing and how hard you and I and several of us worked at doing spirit at work and spirit in business. And I can tell you, out of 105 corporate clients I had to help me do all the diversity training over 20 years in the beginning with no competition, the minute I went past valuing diversity and valuing relationship, and then I went into human energy at work, right out on the edge, and I still kept them with that. I even convinced Chevron to market themselves as a human energy company. Well, they they got it. However, once I went into saying, next, I want to do human spirit at work, all of them said, sorry, we can't do that. That's too much. There was only one who said, I'll do that with you. And so I had to make a choice. And the choice I made was to make a lot less money and to stay connected to my
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, ethical consciousness of the work. And that led instead to personal coaching, etc. and facilitating. So at least I'm interacting one-on-one with somebody who's open to it. And I even went further and did workshops on near-death experiences because I've had a few. And it sounds like it's a real woo-woo, but the truth is, instead of any of you saying I've never had a near-death experience, my answer is, oh, yes, you have. You've had dreams. At the very least, you've had dreams. And some of you have also done deep transformational meditation and felt yourself leave your body a little. Some of you, of course, would admit there were times when we experimented with certain drugs that we left our body. And sometimes you've had dreams where a different kind of dream where a relative or a deceased friend connected with you. Every single aspect of even our dreams or these special moments where we feel the energy outside of us that we didn't control, but it's as if doors opened that we had nothing to do with us. That's all spiritual energy. And once we are open to feeling that, everything changes. I'm not saying it makes more money, but you have to choose your own balance. But it sure makes more wonderful relationships with everybody with whom I connect. And gosh, what a gift. It's so much easier than being the type A and the left frontal lobe only. With what we do is to achieve, achieve, achieve. The balance has to include internal spiritualness and our oneness and our uniqueness. So, amen.
Thank you for that, Lewis. And I actually, if you don't mind, we'll be reaching out. For those who don't know, I started to do research. I'm like, there has to be something about spirituality at work. And I just started Googling that in like 2024, I think. I was like, this is the work I'm going to do. And then I found out it was a whole field. And that's how I found Judy and the Edgewalker's work. And it's been great ever since.
Robin, you're next.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Louis. I have not met you before, but I'm really grateful to meet you here on this call and the gathering. And the work you're doing is really important. And certainly, I think those of us in this spiritually led space, it can feel very lonely sometimes.
Mhm.
And you made the comment, well, the money isn't great sometimes. I really try to catch myself when I get stuck in the scarcity energy,
Mhm.
back to a prosperity mindset, and remember that it's servant leadership, that in my case I'm going out there, and when I connect with others being truly authentic and aligned, I'm giving them and I'm showing up with one of the council principles, which is love. Because for those of you who don't know the work that Lance Secretan has done, he developed the council principles, and that's an acronym for courage, authenticity, service, truthfulness, love, and effectiveness.
Love it.
And I did a presentation in front of 200 folks 3 weeks ago at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, sharing the council principles. And these were not small business owners, but they were business owners in Minnesota wanting to know how to show up differently in the workspace with their team and their people. And when I got to the L word, L, love, I had one guy raise his hand. He said, well, are you telling me I'm supposed to tell my secretary, my assistant, that I love her? And I said, well, I do, but that's me. I said, the point is, if you can get grounded in a loving energy and a loving intent, and you bring that into how you behave with your team and your other fellow leaders and your clients, that's the shift. You don't need to tell them you love them unless you're so compelled to. But we are spiritual beings walking around in a human body, and it's not for the faint of heart. And we have not been culturized to even talk about a soul or our spirit. And I believe we are trailblazers. We're apostles. We're going out there and we're really opening people's eyes and ears, but most importantly, their hearts to not just hear something, but really feel something, because I believe every human on the earth wants to connect on this level. We just have either never heard about it, we've never been given permission to step into that, we don't know how to, and we don't have a safe space to. So I applaud everybody that is actually courageous enough to go out there and do that. And I just really aligned with what you were talking about, Lewis. So thank you for sharing that.
I would say, I know, Lewis, you mentioned that sometimes it's not always, it doesn't always bring the income, but it has the impact. And we do know there are a lot of gazillionaires who are miserable, right? So we all know that context. But I do know, I talked about a paradigm shift, and I believe this is probably the right audience, but we do understand that we're moving into a new era. I don't say that as to be woo woo, but we have astrologically, we know we're going into some type of change in the marketplace, and we might have a little bit of a downturn before it becomes the glory. I said we might have a dystopia before the utopia, but all of the folks on this call are doing the work. And even the major from I've worked in major mass media for most of my career, and they're even seeing the signals. Saw a research paper that faith is the new wellness, right? So we knew wellness took off over the last like 10 years or so, and they're really starting to see the signals that faith and spirituality is that there as well. So though folks might not bring it necessarily in their corporate settings to actually say spirituality, mainly because of the legal issues that could that could bring, if anything. Individuals really want it. There are people who are developing businesses who want to lead with this. So I think all the work that many of you have been doing for many years is just been setting you up for the marketplace now. And Lewis, I really resonated with what you said about the issues with the ethics and morals of marketing and sales. When I was in college, my professors all told me I should be in sales. And I fought it for the first 10 years of my career because I was like, oh, I'm not pushy. Oh, I'm not trying to convince somebody of selling something. And then when I had the opportunity to sell for a black cable network, it was more about informing and educating Fortune 500 businesses on the power of the black dollar. So it didn't feel like I was selling; it felt like I was educating. And so that helped me with my shift of mindset over the next 15 years or so.
Brian had a comment in the chat, and I wonder if Brian would like to speak a little bit more about the language, because that's a big part of sales and marketing is what words
Absolutely.
do we use. In fact, Sam, when you and I were first having our discussions, we were talking about using the words. And one of my philosophies is if you speak it, they will come. Like if you build it, they will come. The field of dreams, and it's a big courageous step to go out there with words like love and spirituality and soul. And it's not for everyone. Some people may need to use a more veiled corporate language, and authenticity is a good example of that. But to find who is it? Are you a bridge builder where you want to have a foot in both worlds and kind of bridge from the mainstream to what's next? That you're talking about the new era that's coming, and so you might soften your language, or maybe you're really meant to be way out on the leading edge in the way that Lewis was talking about, and just being fully using the language that gives you the most energy and is most authentic for you. All of that's good. There's no right or wrong. It's all good. There's a place for everyone. And so Brian has been just finished writing a book. And Brian, maybe you could say a little bit more how you've been thinking about the language as you get the word out about your own work.
I often talk with leaders about their three responsibilities to their team. The first is to do everything they can to set their team members up for success. The second is to get out of the way and keep the road clear ahead of them. And the third is to make themselves obsolete. That is love.
Mm-hmm.
That is planting seeds. That is nurturing seeds. That is growing. Sometimes we call that servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
What is servant leadership? Being of service to others is an expression of love. The other thing that I talk about that I put a little earlier in the chat is we still use a false metric. How much time did you put into it? Nothing gets accomplished through time. It gets accomplished through energy.
I love that.
And we have four energies. We have physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional energy. If we know our own energy flows and how that aligns with the work that we do, we can do a lot more if we align our work and our energy and give ourselves time to refuel. I do a lot of coaching. Coaching drains my mental and physical energy while it fuels my spiritual and emotional energy. So again, it's the language that we use. Chat and I often get into language discussions because I am very intentional about the language I use. The language we use says something, and too often we're not intentional about what it is that we're trying to say. When I can get a leader to acknowledge that spirit, whatever that means to them, is part of how they get their work done, that feeds me.
That's
Brian, everything you just said was amazing. Speechless.
it was. Can I say something, Brian? Amazing. 3 words. You nailed it. And the thing is, when you're talking about language, language is not only what we speak, and it's mostly what we don't say.
Mm.
And that's so well, you know what? Today I have 2 assignments: learn about Lewis and learn about Ryan.
So I know we're just about coming up on time. I appreciate this space. These are conversations that I love to have. Please find me on LinkedIn. I'm going to drop my website and my contact information. Judy, thank you for creating this space for all of us. Love all of your inputs. As always, this fulfills my energy going into the rest of my week.
Thank you so much, Sam. And I just want to honor that Heather said that it was interesting. I think she was saying in response to Brian that I find coaching doesn't deplete me while administration of the business drains me. And I totally understand that, Heather. And my vision for you, Heather, is that you make so much money coaching that you can hire people to handle the business administration and create right livelihood for others. That's one of my visions for myself. And so I want to take a moment just to tell you about what's next, and I am going to turn it back over to you, Sam, for any last words. Thank you. So what we have coming up in about 3 weeks, our next Edgewalker Cafe is on March 12th, and I will be hosting that. And I'm very excited to have 3 dear friends and colleagues from the Academy of Management come and talk about spirituality and sustainability. These people are each pioneers who have been writing and speaking and teaching and researching about spirituality and sustainability. Their passion for the connection between these 2 concepts and practices is palpable and will inspire you as well. Jim Stoner, who wrote the #1 best-selling management textbook that most universities use for their management courses, like 25 years ago, put in a section on spirituality and sustainability, as well as having a whole section just on spirituality. He's always been such a pioneer, and he's often visited our cafes, and we love having him as a member of our community. Sandra Waddick wrote The Intellectual Shaman, and she studied people in academia who are shamans, who walk between worlds, who have these strong spiritual practices, and that informs their research and their teaching and really their being, just as Sam has talked about how it informs our selling and our marketing. And then the last is Chris Laszlo. And Chris, among other things, he and I co-founded with other people the Global Consciousness Institute. And Chris has written several books on spirituality and sustainability. And his most popular book he wrote with Fred Chow out of Singapore, CEO of a billion-dollar company. And the book is called Quantum Leadership. And one of the things I love about this is probably my most recommended book so far, and soon it'll be Brian's. But right now, that's been my most recommended book, Quantum Leadership. The last chapter of that book lists over 100 different practices, and it breaks it up into like individual practices and group practices and practices in nature and practices with art, all to help business leaders and business owners understand more about what practices you can take on and how they can help you in your work, whatever it is. But they're each experts in their field and just incredibly wise beings and very good friends. And so I know that's going to be quite the exciting conversation. So I hope you'll join us and tell others about it, and we look forward to that. The other thing that Sam has alluded to that we'll be announcing in our Edgewalker newsletter is more about the upcoming Edgewalker Academy and Edgewalker membership, and we'll be launching a new Edgewalker website that Sam has designed for us that will blow your minds. If you really want to get a sense of Sam's inner beauty, see what she shared on our new Edgewalker website once that goes live. She brings something, yeah, Sam, you just bring a light and a spark and a beauty and a spirit to everything you touch. And so we're so blessed to have you as a leader in our Edgewalker community. So I want to turn it back over to you and thank you so much for the wisdom and inspiration you've shared with us today, and the real practical ways that we can transform our thinking so that we're more impactful and powerful in the world. So back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I am going to wrap it up with what Brian said. Nothing gets accomplished through time, it gets accomplished through energy. I originally almost called this the energetic principles of sales and marketing. I played with a lot of language and verbiage, Brian. And mainly some of that was due out of fear, like how could I make it corporate friendly? And then some of it was just had a lot of different words that could be used interchangeably. But all of this is about energy, and I did speak about the time piece as well. So I think the last thing I'll leave you with is that we know our business and our service is sacred and is a spiritual practice, but so is your communication with clients, and whether that's through a sales or a marketing practice. Look at it from a spiritual lens.
Thank you
And thank you all
all.
for the space and time and the energy.
We'll see you next month, if not sooner.
Yes.